So can you get a pro camera for £1,000? That will be about 1,200 US dollars. Yes, you can, people, and I'm going to tell you how in this video. So I have got 3 pro cameras here to talk to you about, and these are the 3 best ones that I think you can get for £1,000. They've all got their unique qualities, and I'm going to tell you them throughout the video. At the end of the video, I'm going to tell you which camera I think suits what genre of photography. And of course, it's just going to be my opinion. I've got a lot of experience in this, so hopefully my opinion counts, but it is just my opinion, don't forget. So if any of you have used these cameras or any other cameras that you think are under £1,000, then please comment and we'll get the conversation going. Now, firstly, let's talk about what makes a pro camera. Now, clearly there are lots of different things that makes a pro camera different to another camera, but really it breaks down to 2 things, right? One is the build quality. A pro camera will have an absolutely solid build quality. You know, you could smash it up against the wall and it would still work type of build quality. Do not smash your cameras up against the wall, okay? The other thing is processing power. So pro cameras tend to have bigger processors, if you like. They can do more. So with a bigger processor, you know, more powerful computer, shall we say, within the cameras, they can do a lot more things. You know, a really quick example of that is fast shutter speed. So if you've got a pro camera with a powerful processor within it, it's going to be able to churn through raw files very quickly, and a non-pro camera will not. So that's the main. There's obviously loads and loads of features and this, that and the other, but if you wanted to break it down, pro cameras are absolutely solid in build quality, and they have powerful processors which enables them to do a lot more different stuff. So the first camera that I am going to show you is this one here, the Canon 5D Mark III. Now, all of these cameras that I'm going to show you are second hand. There is absolutely nothing wrong with buying second hand equipment, particularly if you're on a budget, if you're looking to go pro. Buying second hand is going to be where you're going to start building up your equipment, that's for sure. Now, I'm going to give you some tips at the end of this video on how to buy second hand, because you can get some dodgy stuff out there, all right? But there's some easy tips to follow. I'm going to tell you at the end on how to get really good second-hand equipment. But for now, we're going to start by talking about the Canon 5D Mark III, and the lens that's on it is an L series 24-105 lens, and it's an absolutely brilliant lens. So the first thing with this camera is it is a full frame camera. It's a 22.3 megapixel full frame camera. It's got 61 points of autofocus, and it will shoot at 6 frames per second on continuous shooting. It will film at 60 frames per second at full HD, which is 1080p. The lens mount on it is EF, so be aware of that. So you can only get EF lenses for these full frame Canon cameras. It has a minimum ISO of 50 and a maximum ISO of over 100,000, but that is when it's being pushed, that's like computer processed. Its native lowest ISO is 100, and I think its native highest is 25,600. I might be wrong on that, but anyway, the point is it's got a massive ISO range. This has a slowest shutter speed of 30 seconds, but of course you can use bulb mode if you want to go longer than 30 seconds. And its fastest shutter speed is 1/8000th of a second, which is pretty quick. The Mark III will also take an SD card or a compact flash card to store all of your photos on. It was released in 2012, the Mark IIIs, they were released in 2012. And it's got a shutter life of 150,000. So what that means is that this is what Canon gives it. It says it's got a lifespan of 150,000 shutters, pressing down the shutter. But it's, I know of lots of Mark IIIs that have gone well beyond that. So that's its shutter life according to Canon. It's not got built-in Wi-Fi or built-in Bluetooth, neither. So, you know, I don't know if you like Bluetooth into your phone or whatever, or if that's important to you, but this hasn't got it. But you can live stream straight to a computer via the leads that come with it. That's the camera. So now let's talk about the lens. This is mine, by the way. I've had this lens for over 10 years or whatever, I think, and it still works absolutely fine. It is a brilliant lens. So it's got a range of 24 to 105. So you can go wide, you can zoom right in. It's a lens that will suit a lot of different situations. It is f4 throughout, and f4 on a full frame actually does give you quite a good bit of shallow depth of field, if you like. Its minimum aperture is f22, which is more than enough. And it's got image stabilizer on it as well. So it's an image stabilizing lens. It was released in 2005, which is ages ago. But it just shows you how good these lenses are, right? Because, you know, this lens was sold for many, many years. There is an updated version of it now, but I'm telling you now that this version is more than enough that you need for a pro camera. It is really, really good. Now, to get one of these in good condition, and what I mean by that is certain retail secondhand manufacturers, they have grades, don't they? They have grades of conditions, you know, excellent, good, fair, whatever they call it. But I've gone down the line of good condition, lowish shutter count, secondhand cameras. And that's where I'm going for you, right? So, good condition, low shutter count, which would be around about 50,000. With this lens, I've priced up at £1,033, and that is from a second-hand retail store. I will talk to you about them at the end of this video. Now, them retail stores, them second-hand retail stores, you know, that specialize in second-hand equipment, they're obviously going to be a little bit dearer. So it's possible that you could get it even cheaper on auction sites, marketplace sites, you know what I mean. But let me tell you something now. For £1,000-ish, this is priced at $1,033 currently, that is a lot of camera for your money. And if it's pro stuff that you are looking for, this is a good start. The pros to this camera are the sheer quality of the image that it captures. You know, that is the biggest pro to this camera, and that's because it is full frame. If you're looking for a higher dynamic range in your images, you know, if image quality is key to you, then possibly full frame is the way to go. It's also built like an absolute tank, and one of the pros that I think is it's an optical viewfinder. Now, that has pros and cons, but basically what it means is that as you look through the viewfinder, you're seeing exactly what's there through that lens. Now, a couple of cons to this camera. It's got no flip screen, and the reason it's got no flip screen is because it wants to be as weather sealed as possible, so that's why it doesn't have a flip screen. But that could be a con to you, particularly if you get down low and you need to flip a screen, etc. And it's big and heavy and bulky in comparison to the other cameras that I'm going to show you in this video. The next camera that I want to show you is this one here. It's the Fuji X-T3, and on this is the Fuji XF lens, the 18 to 55 f2.8 to f4, and some people might say it's a kit lens because it comes with this body as a kit. That is totally not true. This is much more than a kit lens. I think if you want to buy them brand new, they're about £600+, so it certainly isn't a kit lens. It's an absolutely brilliant lens, and I'll talk to you about it in a second. But let's talk about the camera first. This is a 26.1 megapixel camera. It's a mirrorless camera, and it's an APS-C sensor, sometimes known as a crop sensor. It has built-in Bluetooth. It has a maximum frames per second of 11 frames per second if you was using it mechanically. But if you was going to use it electronically, you can get up to 30 frames per second, which is absolutely fast. Its ISO range is 160 to 12,800, more than enough. It takes an SD card, and you've got 2 card slots in the X-T3, so you can use them to continuously capture on one card, then go straight to the next card, or you can use them as a backup, so it can write to both cards at once. The viewfinder is electronic, so you know what I was telling you with the Canon, which is an optical viewfinder. This is electronic, so again, there's pros and cons. Like I said to you before, with mirrorless cameras, you're effectively looking at a TV screen, should we say, through the viewfinder, whereas with an optical viewfinder, you're looking exactly at what's there live, real time, you know? But with an electronic viewfinder, you get smaller cameras. This is why they're called mirrorless, because they don't have the mirrors that an optical viewfinder has. So there's your pros and cons between your mirrorless here and your non-mirrorless. It can film at full 4K, and it's got a maximum film frame rate of 120 frames per second, which means that you can film in slow-mo on this and it will look really cool. It was released in 2018, so out of these 3 cameras here, it's the most recent. It has a minimum shutter speed of 900 seconds, so you can digitally set this to, you know, loads if you want. Of course, you can use bulb again as well, and cable releases and all of them things. And it's got a maximum shutter speed of 1/8000th of a second mechanically, and if you're using it electronically, that goes to 1/32,000th of a second, which is an extremely fast shutter speed. Now, the shutter life on the Fujis, or the X-T3s here, they're not published by Fuji like they are with the Canons, all right? So no one actually knows what the shutter life is on this, but generally what knocks around on the internet is it does well over 100,000 shutters, okay? And I can imagine it'd probably go a lot more than that. The Fuji X-T3 has 425 autofocus points, which is really good for tracking subjects. So now let's talk about this lens. It's an XF lens, a Fuji XF lens, which is absolutely brilliant. It's got image stabilizer on the lens. Its widest aperture is f2.8. That's at a wide angle. As you zoom in, it goes down to f4. And its minimum aperture is f22. So the pros of this camera, well, one of them is its filming quality, okay? So it films in 4K, and you can do slow-mo videos if you want to, up to 120 frames per second. We actually film on the Fuji X-T4s, that's what I'm looking at right now. The sensor inside the X-T4 and inside the X-T3 is the same, okay? So that's the quality that you're getting, you can see that now. It will shoot at 30 frames per second electronic mode, and it's got quite good autofocus and tracking settings on it if you need that kind of stuff. It's a really solid build, and it's small, okay? It's a nice, small, compact camera. So let's talk about the cons. These lenses, this lens that I've chosen to put on this camera, they say that they are not weather sealed, but I can tell you now that I've been out with these lenses and in the rain, and it's been absolutely fine. So, you know, you've got to weigh your options up there. Whereas the other 2 cameras here, they are like fully weather sealed, and I'll come to that in a minute. The batteries in the X-T3 are fine for photography. They last a long time for photography, but for filming, they tend to run out quickly. That was one of the upgrades in the X-T4, but just be aware, if you are filming, you're likely to run these batteries out quite quickly. And the other thing that I don't like about this is the flip screen. It has got a flip screen, but it's not like a proper flip screen. It's a bit fiddly, and yeah, it's not a good flip screen, shall we say. Now, incidentally, this camera, this exact camera here, belongs to the videographer who's standing behind that camera there, all right? This is his actual camera, which he bought secondhand in good condition, okay? So this is how I've priced this one up. If you go to a retail second-hand store and you look for one that is in good condition with a low shutter count, again around about 50,000, this was priced at £1,043. That is a lot of camera for your money, and like I said to you before, this is like full second-hand retail price, so it's likely you could get them cheaper, you know, on other websites, you know. And then we come on to the lovely, beautiful Olympus OM-D EM1 Mark II. And on this camera, I've got the Olympus 12-40 f2.8 Pro lens, which is absolutely superb. I'll tell you a bit more about that in a minute. It is a mirrorless micro 4/3 camera with 20.4 megapixels. Now, what micro 4/3 means, it's the size of the sensor. So it's got the smallest sensor out of all of these three that I've chosen for you. But there are pros to that, and that is that it's the smallest camera out of these three as well. So for portability, this is a really good option. It has a 5-axis image stabilizer on the sensor. It's the only one of these three cameras that's got image stabilization in the camera body. It's also got it on the lens as well. Now, that is really good. If you've never used image stabilizing in the body, you know, it's just really good. You can use a lot slower shutter speeds for filming. You can pan and everything like that. So, you know, this is the only one out of these three that's got that. It's got a maximum frames per second of 15 frames per second mechanically and 60 frames per second electronic. So it's the fastest shooting one out of all of these as well. It's absolutely packed full of tech as well, and you know, one of them is Pro Capture. It's got something called Pro Capture on it, which means that you can be taking a picture of something that's fast moving, shall we say, and as soon as you put your finger on the shutter, it starts to record frames before you even press the button down, right? So effectively what it's doing is capturing frames before you take the shot and after you take the shot, you know, because if you take a series, that is on continuous shooting. And that's just one thing, it's packed full of that kind of stuff. Its minimum ISO is 200 and its maximum ISO is 25,600. Its storage system is SD cards, and again, it's got 2 slots, well, they've all got 2 slots actually, but you can put 2 SD cards in there, and again, you can write to both, so you've got a backup should you need it. The viewfinder type is electronic again, because it's a mirrorless camera, so you're not actually looking through the lens, you're looking at a TV screen, but the trade-off for that is you've got a much smaller compact camera. It films at 4K and its highest frame rate for filming is 60 frames per second. It was released in 2013 and Olympus put a shutter life of 200,000 on this camera. It has a minimum shutter speed of 60 seconds, but again, of course, you can use bulb and cable releases, etc. if you need to go longer than 60 seconds. Its fastest shutter speed mechanically is 1/8,000th of a second, and electronically, it's 1/32,000th of a second, which is the same as the Fuji here. It does have built-in Wi-Fi, and it's got 121 autofocus points. Now let me talk to you about the lens, and this lens is absolutely brilliant, and incidentally, this is my camera. I've had this camera for absolutely years, and I've just used it constantly for all sorts of stuff, photography, filming, webcamming, you know, loads of different things. It's just brilliant, and this lens it just does everything. It's an f2.8 throughout, so you've got a wide aperture throughout your whole focal range here. It's 12-40, so full frame equivalent, you just double it, so it's 24-80. So it's, for argument's sake, it's a 24-80 f2.8 if you want to be equivalent, you know. And it's got image stabilizer within the lens as well. So you've got image stabilizing within the body and within the lens. Hand holding with both of them put together is unbelievable when you come from a world like what I do, when you never had image stabilizing before. You know, when you first start using it, you just go, I can't believe it. You know, your hand holding at like 15th of a second, even lower sometimes, you know. So that is a real plus for the Olympus. So like I said, this is my actual camera, and I've priced this up again in good condition from second-hand websites that are like full retail second-hand websites. This body in good condition, low shutter count, with a good condition lens, comes in at £928. So it's the cheapest out of these three pro cameras and lenses. So the pros to this camera is, like I've said, the image stabilizing. Okay, if hand holding is your thing, you know, this is the best out of all of them. If that is the key thing for you, is to keep things steady and still whilst hand holding. It's very tech heavy, all right? So I haven't got the time to tell you what's in this camera, but there is tons of stuff in it, all right? So it's very tech heavy if you're into that kind of stuff. It's great quality. I mean, they're all great quality. They're all built to last, but you know, obviously so is the Olympus. It's solid and built to last. It's small and compact, and it's f2.8 throughout the whole range of this lens. Now the cons are, or one of them could be, and we've got to air this out, is that it's a micro four thirds camera. So being a micro four thirds camera, you get that compactness, all right? You get it that small, but you've got a much smaller sensor, and it's not capturing as much detail, if you like, as much dynamic range as a full frame camera. You see it particularly if you're shooting at high ISOs. So this is okay, ISO 800, 1600. If you start going above that, you might well start seeing some degrading in your image, especially if it's not exposed properly. If you expose your pictures properly on these micro four thirds camera, you generally get away with it. But if you don't, if you have to pull and push them about in Lightroom, that's when it could be a problem. But with a full frame camera, there's a lot of leeway, you know? So that's the con, if you like, for the Olympus micro four thirds. The con is also the pro though, isn't it? You know, you've got to weigh these things up. Now these are the three cameras, pro cameras, that I have priced up for £1,000 for you. Now there's going to be people shouting at the screen going, what about Nikon, what about Sony, and this, that and the other. Well, I couldn't find any that was under £1,000, but I'm not the be all and end all here, and please share your knowledge. You know, if you think that there is a Sony pro camera, remember they have to be pro cameras, or a Nikon, whatever. If you think I've missed out on some, comments, put them in the comments, share with other people, you know, help people out. Now I'm going to tell you what genre of photography or what type of photographers I think that each one of these suit. But before I do, let me take this opportunity to tell you about the courses that we run over at theschoolofphotography.com. If you want to learn how to use pro cameras properly, and I mean properly as well, structured, professional, researched education that's going to help you learn and help you retain the knowledge quicker, then please come over and see us at theschoolofphotography.com, where we have got courses in photography, Lightroom, Photoshop, macro photography, landscape photography, fine art photography, wildlife photography. You know, we've got loads and loads of courses for you to get your teeth stuck into. There's loads of free stuff over there as well, so you can try before you buy. So if you want to learn photography properly, come over and see us at theschoolofphotography.com. Now, of course, you can take any type of photography with any of these cameras, all right? You know, you can take landscapes with them all, portraits with them all, street photography with them all, whatever, all right? But I am going to give you my opinion on what genres I think suit, you know, what cameras. So let's start with the Canon Mark III here, the 5D Mark III. This is a full frame camera. Now, where full frame cameras succeed overall is the sheer image quality and detail that they capture. So if that is important, then obviously you've got to go for full frame. So let's think about studio portraiture, faces where you need to retouch and things like that. You know, you need as much detail as possible when you're going to be doing a lot of retouching. The full frame cameras will also be good for if you're shooting in high ISOs, okay? And don't get confused with low light, all right? Because you can shoot at low light, at a low ISO, can't you? You just put it on a, well, night photography is a good example. Tripod, longer shutter speed, okay? So it's not really about low light, it's about high ISO. So if you are going to be shooting at really high ISOs, the full frame is going to probably be the one that you want to go for. And you know, obviously because it's big and bulky and heavy, it's going to suit people that are not going to be walking around as much, shall we say. All right, so if you're going on 10-mile hikes, don't forget that the lenses could be massive and heavy for full frame cameras. You know, you might not want a full frame, but if you're working in the studio, maybe, you know, like, I don't know, baby portraits and that kind of stuff, then this is probably going to be the best for you. Now, the X-T3 here, the Fuji X-T3, I think I'm just going to call this one like the good all-rounder, all right? Because it is a good all-rounder. It's going to do, well, everything that you want it to do. Well, they all are. I've said that already, but it's a crop sensor camera. Now, the crop sensor cameras are the most popular. They're the most ones that are sold, all right? And that's because it's in the middle of the road. So this is going to be good for portrait, street photography, documentary, where you've got to walk around a lot. And it's also going to be good for landscapes. And it's also going to be good for fast things like sports, wildlife, etc. It's got a 11 frames per second mechanical and 30 frames per second electronic, okay? Obviously you're going to need zoom lenses for that one, but so what I'm saying to you, like, it's a good all-rounder. Now let's talk about the Olympus here. Now incidentally, if this was a good looking contest, you know, if this was a catwalk, I'd go for the Olympus as being the best looking one, all right? So this one clearly is your most portable one. At the moment, you're probably looking at both of these together and thinking, well, they're very similar in size, which they are with these lenses on. If you start adding wider angles, zoom lenses, these lenses are going to be a lot bigger than these lenses here, I can tell you. So portability wise, if that's important to you, then the Micro Four Thirds system is probably going to be the answer. It's also packed full of tech and you know, the fast shutter speeds, for instance. You know, we've said that this one's got 30 electronic. This one's got 60 frames per second electronic. It's got that pro capture. So it would be good for sports and wildlife and anything that's fast moving, if you like, and you need to have continuous shooting. It's also got an excellent tracking system on it as well. So, you know, this is all the tech stuff. So it can track faces, it can track objects and everything like that. So you've got your fast shooting, your good autofocus, your good tracking. You know, this is what this is made for. If you're hand holding a lot, you've got the image stabilizer, don't forget, in the body and in the lens. So again, street photography, documentary photography, where you're moving about quickly. It's discreet. I can tell you now, I have done documentary projects using this camera, and it's kind of like you're invisible. I can tell you now, I've done documentary projects using a Canon 5D as well, and people see you with this. I can tell you, I've done it. People see you with that, obvious reasons. It's absolutely massive. You seem to disappear a bit more when you've got one of these in your hand, so it's going to be good for that kind of stuff. Just be wary that at higher ISOs, you might not get the quality that you want, and if you're not getting your exposure correct, again, you know, pushing and pulling the raw files is harder with a Micro Four Thirds camera than it is with a full frame camera. So don't forget, this is a video with me bringing you what I think are the best professional cameras for £1,000. Now, because it's £1,000, you're going to have to go second hand. And like I said, there's nothing wrong with going second hand. Let's give you some tips on buying second hand equipment. Firstly, wherever possible, try and get the shutter count of the camera that you are buying, okay? It's easier to get shutter counts off of these Canons or the non-mirrorless cameras, shall we say, than it is with the mirrorless ones. So just be aware of that. There is still ways of doing it, and whoever you're buying off should be able to give you the shutter counts of the cameras. So if you can, get that. And I think that anywhere around 50,000, or if you can get lower, go for it, but 50, 65, there's nothing wrong with that. You know, these cameras all look like, this is 150,000 lifespan, this is 200,000. Fuji don't publish it, but I reckon that they're gonna be on par, aren't they, you know? So don't forget to go for a lower shutter count. Don't worry about rubbing off of paintwork, you know, like them signs of wear and tear, if you've got a low shutter count. So you'd much rather have a low shutter count and wear and tear rather than a pristine looking camera and a high shutter count. All right, now I'll give you an example. I've got the X-T3, we're filming on it now, and first time I took it out to photograph up London, I was doing some street photography. I had it on a strap and I had my belt, and there was some metal on the belt thing there. It rubbed on that metal all day, and it's rubbed all the metal back to the metalwork on the first day that I got the Fuji camera. So this is just what happens. I wouldn't worry too much about that rubbing. It's the shutter count that's important, all right? Now you can go to specific second-hand camera stores. mpb.com is one. They have got shops in Europe, sorry, it's an online shop. So they've got online shops in Europe and UK, the US, etc. You've also got Wex Photographic, which is in the UK. You've also got the specific camera brands. They have like a refurbished section. Some of them do anyway. Fuji do. And I can tell you now that I have bought second-hand equipment from Wex Photographic in the UK, MPB in the UK, Fuji refurbished in the UK. So I've bought from all of these places. So I can say firsthand that, you know, it's a good system to use, because they would have checked the cameras, they would have cleaned them for you and, you know, made sure they're okay. And they come with a warranty as well. So if you get a camera and it breaks straight away, you send it back, you get your money back, all right? Now, you've also got auction websites. I can't say the exact names, but come on, you know what I'm talking about. And you've got marketplace websites, haven't you? There's loads of them, different ones, different countries, all over the world. And you're likely to get the equipment cheaper from them sites than going to a specific second-hand camera store, right? But obviously you've got to be wary of what you're buying, so make sure you see a lot of pictures, make sure you get the shutter count, make sure that if that person who is selling you the equipment has got a high feedback rating, do not buy off anyone that's got like 1 or 2 feedbacks. You know, you want someone that's got lots of feedbacks and they're high rated. And try and ensure that if you do buy from one of them websites, that there is an option for you to send it back should you need to. Now, I hope that this video has helped you out, because I get asked a lot. Everyone asks me, what camera should I buy? I want a pro camera, I've got a budget of 1,000 and this, that and the other. And I have done my very best there. I've priced it up, took me ages to price all of this up. And these are the 3 best. Full frame, crop sensor, micro 4/3. I've gone for the full range for you, and I really do hope it's helped you out. Don't forget, if you know of any other models, they've got to be pro, right? Professional bodies, professional lenses. If you know of any others that you can get for under £1,000 or around £1,000, put them in the comments, share them with other people. You know, these are the ones that I've chosen. There may well be others. Please help us as well. Like this video, comment like I said, share it with your friends. And if this is the first time that you have ever seen the School of Photography videos, hit that subscribe button. You know what to do. So I hope this has been a really good video for you. I hope it's really helped you out. And remember, if you want to learn photography properly, come over and see us at theschoolofphotography.com.